Y'all, Stages is now sponsored by BetterHelp, and I couldn't be more excited because I love therapy. So I encourage you, if you've had a tough year and a half, why don't you give them a shot? You can find a therapist that you can connect with. Their resource is thousands of therapists, well-trained and experienced. You can keep looking until you find someone that you click with. They have customized online therapy. They do offer videos, but they also offer phone and live chat sessions. So you don't even have to be seen. You can only be heard. What are you waiting for? Go to BetterHelp. That's HELP.com/stages. And for our cast members, you get 10% off your first month at BetterHelp.com/stages. Go, go, go. Go find your healing. Go find your happy. Stages podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp. That's HELP. Hi, I'm Stephanie J. Block.
And I'm Mary Lee Fairbanks. Welcome to Stages podcast,
where we're bringing creation and connection to center stage.
And I wanted to tell you all that as I was rushing home, guess who I passed? James Lapine. And I was like, guess what I'm about to do?
You are the only two directors thus far that we have interviewed.
I think that's great. I love that, I love who you're sampling. I love that it's,
Thanks.
Have you had a chance to listen to a few of them?
I listened to a little bit of James this morning. I started listening to the Gorilla Vet. That's where the juice is.
Totally. Y'all, we have someone extraordinarily special. Her name is Annie Kauffman, and I could make a whole list of shows and credits, but I think what struck me the most when I was doing some homework on Annie is that she is associated with some of the most impressive and respected theatrical institutions, and not just like associated with, but almost part of the family. You will either see founding member or board or artistic director. There is an intentionality, I think, to Annie's career. You read things like Steppenwolf Theatre, New York Theater Workshop, Playwrights Horizon, Lucille Lortel, Lincoln Center, the Atlantic Theatre Company, South Coast Rep, Goodman Theatre, New York City Center, Stanford University. You see things like New Plays and The Civilians, documentary theater. These are things that as a young person who wants to be really in the meat and the potatoes of being a New York City artist, this is what you strive to see on your resume. And it's very rare that you actually see this. So I'm so excited to speak to her because I want to know about the intentionality, about how she created this sort of legacy and this sort of resume. Please welcome to Stages podcast, Annie Kauffman. Annie Kauffman, to stage, please. Ms. Kauffman, to the stage.
Hi, Annie.
Hello, hello.
Holy smokes. So I mean it when I say that I don't believe these sort of institutions just fall into people's laps, that you have to have a desire and intention to go to New York and find a destiny, create or curate a destiny. Is that true for me to say?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I the way that you just put together those, the things on my CV and the way that you contextualized it feels much more intentional, I think, than what I sort of came to New York doing. And I often say that the career of a director, the career of a theater artist are disparate points on a graph. And in order to make meaning of those, you sort of have to connect dots and do a little bit of math, because there isn't a ladder that one can climb in this industry, at least not these days. there seemed to be a ladder way back when. The ladder was from actor to stage manager to director, but that's not really how it is these days. So
did you have a network of other creatives that you knew well when you came?
I went to Stanford, and then I, because everyone in the theater department, I was a double major. I was theater and Slavic language and literature because my parents would not let me do just theater. They called that a trade, not a
profession.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, wait, Slavic literature was going to get you a trade?
Exactly. Well, I think they were just more interested in the academic, the sort of thing that sounded, that sounded impressive. But
it does sound impressive.
It sounds very impressive.
And I'm glad that it does, because if you got into the nitty gritty of it, you would find you would be able to pull a thread and undo it all. But I will say that what I told my dad at the time, and I was pretty proud of myself, actually, and I do believe this. I do think in a liberal arts undergrad program that we're all looking at history, and a major is a lens through which you're looking at history. So, and especially like Stanford, which is not, it's not super practical. It's not super practical theater. Maybe it's a little bit more now, but it wasn't when I went there. There were huge academics there, Carl Weber and Alice Rayner and all of these people who had been involved in the academic side of theater as well as the practical side. So, it was very true for me, because I remember taking a costume class by a pretty famous scholar and I'm not going to remember his last name, it's Doug something, but if you studied theater at all and under, like this many years ago, you used his textbook. And essentially what I learned was fashion emulated the philosophy of the time. So, the idea of the round sleeves was at a time when the circle was a holy shape. And I learned so much about women's rights and men's rights through the way that women were corseted and then let free. And so anyway, that was my pitch to my dad, which fell like a lead balloon. And I did, but I think it is true. And that's why I really encourage young people not to go into conservatory, learn something else,
The more you learn about other things, the better actor you can be, or the better director you can be, or the better designer you can be. You, at one point, started out as an actress, didn't you?
Yeah. I'm laughing because, yes, I did. My goal was to be a musical theater star. I came to New York for the first time. I'm from Phoenix, and my dad, each one of us, when we turned 13, when we graduated from 8th grade, my dad would take each one of us, and there's 6 of us, to New York City and DC. And this was our introduction to the East Coast. And we would see a ton of theater. In order to go, we had to memorize the preamble to the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, part of the Declaration of Independence. And we also had to do squats because we were going to walk up the Statue of Liberty. So every night I'd go up to my mom and dad's bedroom, and my dad and I would do squats. And then I would have to, try to recite these things so that we were allowed, so that was our little test to go. We were here probably for 4 days, and we probably saw 6 shows.
Do you remember what they were?
I do remember. Okay, ready for this? They were Evita, which just blew my mind and actually had a huge impression on work that I did in the future. I saw Dancin'.
Aha, sure. The poster with all the legs coming out. Right?
All the legs.
Yep,
That's right.
Yep.
I saw Chorus Line. I saw Mousetrap or Death Trap? What was and I think Christopher Reeve was in it. It's Death Trap.
Yeah,
Death Trap.
Christopher Reeve, Death Trap. Yeah.
And I remember just seeing these shows and going back to our hotel and just crying myself to sleep because I was I wanted it so badly. And I really wanted to be a musical theater star, but I couldn't sing or dance or act. And I was cast a lot in undergrad as a man because there was a dearth of men. It wasn't because I was like so amazing that I could, I had these shape-shifting abilities. I think it was just to fill in for the lack of balls.
That's so interesting to me, because when I was describing you to Mary Lee, I said, she's not the bells and whistles commercial musical theater. Her approach is like tense and emotional and, in quotes, edgy and complicated. And so that's so interesting to me, that the genesis of it all was, well, I mean, Evita had that dark for the time, certainly. Musical theater, that was dark.
Yeah, very dark. And I think you're totally right, Stephanie. I try to reconcile this. I try to reconcile these parts of me, you know what I mean? Not that they can't all live in me, but I do think a lot about what excited me about being in the theater. And I think a lot of it had to do with my exhibitionism, and I wanted people to see me on stage. I mean, I think, and I'm weirdly like revisiting that now and seeing what are my real dreams in the theater? Wow. Where am I most comfortable?
Did the pandemic spark that sort of re-questioning?
Oh, for sure. If you have any sense of self, you're questioning it you're questioning it often. Yeah. The pandemic had me thinking a lot about myself as a leader. The first part of the pandemic, the sort of range of emotions was first relief, because I was heading into probably a nervous breakdown with everything that was going on. I mean, in my life, and trying to juggle all the things, because I mean, let's be honest. I have to do a lot of things as a director, as a freelance director, in order to make a living. I just want to be very clear about that, especially if I'm not a Broadway director.
That's right.
Yeah.
I always say I have to stir at least like 12 pots and hope that one or two actually cooks up the way I was hoping it would cook up.
And most of them require travel, because you can't just be doing it in New York. You have to be everywhere to do it.
And that's true.
Right.
That's true. And, a lot of regional theaters pay better than New York theaters off Broadway.
Right. That's true.
That's true. So that's true. And I think so. It was a little bit of practicality and a little bit of my ego being stroked by certain artists or certain places asking me to do shows, and my feeling like I couldn't say no. So anyway, it's a balance in there somewhere. So the first thought was just relief.
A forced vacation.
Without judgment or expectation.
Right.
Nobody's expecting anything from you or of you, and that's freeing.
Well, that is what's interesting, because I think that everyone was sort of scurrying to help, like scurrying to help artists, scurrying to help get money and, and also do online content and all of this stuff, right? I'm a leader in, different institutions. And so I would have thought that I could have stepped in and lent a hand and guided. And to my great disappointment, I didn't. Mm-hmm. And that was very painful for me. And I couldn't. I wouldn't say it was I paralyzed. Maybe I was paralyzed. I don't know. I can't quite, describe it, but I was not able to do that. I mean, I sort of would start things and then I just couldn't follow through with them.
Are you an empath in any way? Did you feel like you were taking on all the worries and weights and all the feelings of the world?
I wish that I could say that, Stephanie. I'm not really sure why I don't do that. I mean, I don't do that, thankfully, in a way, because I feel like I wouldn't be able to move. I think I'm a very sensitive person, but I'm sensitive in reading, not necessarily feeling. And so I think I was exhausted. I think I just, when you go on vacation after being really, really busy and you can't move for 3 days and then you start your vacation, I felt like I had 6 months of that then. And I had a really hard time. And then George Floyd happened, and there was a scurrying by a good many institutions, as we know, to evaluate practices, et cetera. And so I was sitting in on a lot of anti-racist and anti-bias training, and people started sort of presenting these models that were models of organizing that were not hierarchical. Well, even in our rehearsal room, there's the director, and then there's the stage manager, and then there's the PA, and it's very like this. Yeah. And I started being introduced to non-hierarchical systems that placed visionary on the same wavelength as messenger.
More collaborative. You're not listing it by job. You're organizing it by almost a creativity aspect. And one's not more important than the other. They're collaborative.
Is that one that is not more important than the other. So we need visionaries, but if we have all visionaries, no one's going to be there to execute.
That's right. That's right.
And that was very moving to me. I find that very moving and helpful in building my way back into the world. I was going to say back into theater, but I think back into the world. I'm much more interested now in looking at everything as my life, not just my career.
Do you equate stillness with selfishness?
Yeah, I think I was very critical of myself because I'm a problem solver. And I think that the time over the course of the pandemic, I think I'm starting to really, in my 50s now, understand who I really am and also understand what I really want, which I think is the most difficult thing. For me, it's been the most difficult thing to answer.
It's a really difficult thing. And I think a lot of women especially have a very hard time answering that question. When you say, what do you really want? You seem to me, I've never worked with you, but you seem to me to be very responsible for others, right? Which is why you love to be a director. You're the responsible one in the room. I heard you say somewhere that whenever someone gives you a script, you read it all the way through because you feel responsible to read it all the way through, even if you know you don't like it, even if you know in the first 20 pages, this is not for me, you read it all the way through because you feel somewhat responsible for others. And I think sometimes when we focus a lot on others' needs and doing for others, when the time stops and we have to go inward and really focus inward and give ourselves that permission, it's really hard to do. Because in general, women aren't given that.
It's not pretty in there, not always pretty in there.
It's not always pretty in there. And then it's interesting because I can answer, Stephanie, what do you want? But when I pose the question as, what is the life that you want?
Yeah, exactly.
It changes completely. And I don't have a clear answer for that. I know how I want to feel. I know how I want to walk through the world. I know how I want to be viewed by myself and by others, but I don't know what life I want to do that in, what atmosphere, what that looks like. I really don't know what that looks like. And that's what the pandemic has brought to the forefront for me, because in motion, you think you're creating that life. But I must say that these last 18 years, I've been so privileged that it has one opportunity has led to the next, has led to the next. And I was saying in an earlier interview that I felt like I was controlling that. I was making that happen. Yeah. But when those opportunities disappeared, I thought, oh my God, I am really coming from a place of sort of bare bones, and I'm not inspired, and trying to move my way from the bottom up is very difficult for me. And I thought that's what I've been doing for the last 18 years. And I hadn't. I'd been working from the top down. All of this inspiration and art has been salt and peppering every aspect of my life, that I just always felt creative and inspired. And it was all like, that was a lie.
I think that is so well said. And I mean, I think that's what I'm talking about too, with what I want in terms of my life. But I do think discovering that being in motion is a lie is really, it's really deep. It's
it informs
very, very
who we are a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Stephanie, I wouldn't say that it's a lie. It was just the process of creativity that you were accustomed to. That's all. That's what had come your way.
I was walking around as a little chatty billboard saying, oh yes, and I make sure that I'm constantly surrounded by music and art and dancing and poetry.
That's not untrue.
Well, no, that's not untrue, but it was fabricated by so many other outside sources. When I was really taking ownership and claim that I was the one making it happen. I was the cog in the wheel making all that. No. I was part of the equation and the fabric of it all. But to use the analogy, you pull that one thread with the Slavic languages, you pull that one thread of taking those opportunities away from me. And it's up to me now to make the inspiration, make the magic, make the happy, make the music. My well went dry for quite a long time. And I thought that's a big thing to look at and see the how, when, and the whys of it all, I think.
Yeah, I think it's really important. And I think it's also important to, the pandemic also, because I wasn't working, I think I might have said this to you, Stephanie, but I could actually spend time with my family in a way that I never have. And my sisters, my brother, my father, and they, all of them at certain points, they're all very capable people and amazing at everything they do. But they were having a hard time, and they have kids. And I don't. And I was able to kind of move around. And I will tell you that, and for friends too, who were having a hard time, I was able to go to them and be helpful in that way. And I can't tell you how. That seems so simple, but I have never been able to do that. And it was really, really important. It was really, really important to also spend time in their homes and not feel intimidated by the fact that they had families. And I'm the only one out of 6 kids who doesn't have kids, and the only one out of 6 kids who was divorced, so I spent a lot of time worrying about how I was different. And all of those were just all of that was set aside. And no one in my family made me feel like that. That's just, again, me. I'm curious to investigate who am I, what's my personality most aligned with in terms of the job, you know what I mean? Of a weaver or a communicator or a visionary, or, you know what I mean?
A nurturer or
I'm interested in that because I think I will be, if I can let go of being the kind of leader that I thought I was. I just mean in my head. It's not going to change how I am in the room, but who I am in my head, I feel like I'm going to be able to fill a potential much, you know what I mean, to really succeed at something that I'm actually naturally inclined to do.
It's interesting because in yoga, they say the best way to find yourself is to ask, how may I be of service? How may I serve? And that's how you find your truest self. So it's interesting that that's been your experience throughout the pandemic. So I'm wondering, did your family raise you to be of service? Was it the kind of family that was of service to others? That's
an interesting question. Yes and no. I would say that there were examples of my parents being of service, but it wasn't something that it wasn't a thing that
like
was
a family tradition, or like you'd all serve meals at Thanksgiving and
right. But all of 6 kids we all are service people. So it must have come through in some way.
What was the very first play you ever directed?
Oh gosh, this was at college, and it was 2 plays that were Russian symbolist plays. Can you imagine? Oh my God, what a snooze fest. And they were short plays, and they all had to do with, and one was by Alexander Blok, who's a symbolist poet, actually. And the other one was Erdmann, I think, Mikhail Erdmann, I'm pretty sure. And they were both involved with, they had, Columbine and Harlequin, and they all were sort of, using those characters as comments about the state of things. Yeah. They were really boring. I will say that, it wasn't my greatest triumph.
Have you ever directed something where you wish you could go back and say, oh, damn it, I just want one more shot at that one and do it again? Or have you usually been kind of happy with the way things turned out and it was the vision that you had in mind?
I kind of feel like that, although I've definitely had a chance. One of the best experiences that a director gets is if a show goes someplace else and you have to do it again, and you get to do it with the same company.
Yeah.
Because because then you actually can get somewhere. You can actually get somewhere.
Do you do a lot of pre-production before walking into the room?
I don't anymore. I mean, okay, well, I do in terms of like, my pre-production work is all design, because designers are brilliant dramaturgs, because they're both practical, because they literally have to build it, and they're practical and metaphorical because they have to straddle that in a really, really real way. I will break down the script, but I'll break it down literally. You know, one of the things I used to teach my students was to read a script without any prejudices, which is really difficult to do.
So hard for me. I want to fix every character. I want to put my tilt on it every single time. And you extrapolate what the characters are thinking or whatever like that, right? So the first thing I try to do is break it down and actually list what happens, what actually happens, not what I think happens. Or not interpreting, he took her hand, or they're in love. No, he just took her hand. That could mean a bunch of different things, because the simpler you are, the more choices you have. You're not trapped, which brings me to why I don't make a lot of decisions before rehearsal, because I learned through a very, very painful process what my job is and what a playwright's job is in the room with a new play. And that is this, that you are not making the play outside of the rehearsal room. You're making the play inside the rehearsal room with these people in this moment, with this temperature in the room, with these snacks. So it's that fragile. And also, it's not meant to be read and figured out. It's meant to be lived
and explored
in 3D. So what I learned was, if I planned something beforehand, if I knew the answer, or it didn't even have to know the answer, just simple things like blocking beforehand, right? Then what's happening is I'm cutting myself off. As you can see, I need choices, cutting myself off for the dynamic in the room. So I think I lost time.
That goes back to what you were saying about joining these meetings on social justice and racial justice, and that it's more like the round of the knights. No, what's it called? The
Knights of the Round Table.
The Knights of the Round Table, as opposed to the hierarchy of this is your label, then you're second in charge, and then you're third in charge. So that's the way you like to create. And I think I haven't been in the room with you that much, right? Quantity, but the quality has been such that it feels like you and I have worked together quite a lot.
Yeah.
You have a firm hand, you have an understanding of the room, and you certainly have the seat where everybody knows she's making the final decision. We're having this conversation. And if I come to her with ideas that are thought out, ideas that are fortified, and they have substance because of the material and the way I see the character, that there will be a really great back and forth, but still knowing that the final decision as the director will be yours. But it really is this sort of movement. And I thought for sure this conversation was going to go a little different, in the sense that I thought for sure there was quite a bit of pre-production, because of maybe just your understanding of the material and understanding of the people, of the tools in the room that you're working with and alongside. So it's interesting for me to hear you say it this way.
Yeah, that's the joy. That's like the joy. You know, if I could, I know this is like a lot of directors say this, but if I could just keep having conversations about like which way things could go, I would love that in perpetuity, like ad nauseum.
Never ending rehearsal process is your dream.
Yeah, and just like conversations too, because you know, about it. I really love that. And I will say this also, growing as a director for me has been whittling away of this and relying on instinct. Like, and I also, like, I feel like what I also feel about you, I mean, obviously the thought through thing is fantastic. And I obviously, I mean, we have to get to that at some point, but part of the reason I gather the kind of people I do in a room is because I trust their instincts too. And like lots of times I'll have an instinct, and an actor or a designer or someone will say, why that? And I'll be like, okay, let me get back to you on that. I will walk backwards to it, but right now I don't want to explain it. I just feel it.
Yep. And it feels right to me.
Yeah.
So let's go that way.
To me. Yeah. And I think that like that, and I feel like that is gold. It's gold. And I'm trying to do that with my life.
Do you know why that's gold?
Oh, yeah.
Because I think when we're going on the instincts and the conversations are there and that this feels right to me, but let me listen to you, as opposed to this is pre-produced. It is a control that then if someone disagrees with you, you have to come to terms with. There's a whole inner discussion that has to happen. Then there's the whole letting go. And it's like so messy when it's like that.
So when you're controlling something, you're controlling it because you're seeing any change to what you have envisioned as an attack on your personal ego or your personal vision. But when you follow your gut and you know you can trust somebody else, you're coming from a different place. There's a flow, and the control isn't so tight. You allow to kind of go with the flow, which is where creativity begins. If we're going in the chakras, that's chakra 2 where we control everything. But chakra 3 is our guts and our instincts and knowing what we should fear, what we shouldn't fear, and having the faith in the self to follow it. And what we're taught often is don't listen to this, listen to the head. Go with your head, because that's never failed us before. And it takes a lot more courage to go with what you're feeling in your gut. But also, I wanted to ask you so when you're in a collaborative process and you seem like you love the collaboration process, which is so awesome, I think. When do you know when to say, okay, now I'm making a decision. Now I'm going to stop? Because the collaboration process, like you were saying, can go on, and the conversations can keep going. When do you know when to land?
Well, first I'm going to say this. I am a collaborator because I depended on it. Now I love it in a different way than I did when I was younger. But it started because I wish I could be a writer and be alone in a room and not depend on anyone. But I need that. I need other, I need other people to help me build something. And now I've grown to love it. I want to say not just in my career and what I do, but I'm really trying to bring that to bear on other parts of my life. Okay. So then you asked, I don't know if I know when it's the final thing. I will say this. I think that when we get into previews, that's when the work begins. I don't think that my companies always feel like, okay, great, now we can move to the theater. Now we're like, this is what we're putting on, because we're in the real space. Again, like I want to just reiterate that like theater happens in a space. It's like physics are involved. You know what I mean? As opposed to film or television where you could do anything, the physics are actually involved. So once you get into that space, and it's different. And once you've got the audience, and I'm sure we all know this, but I really think that like, that's when it begins. And, depending on the preview period, I'm freaking using that preview period.
And now our 5 questions.
If you could go back and talk to your little teenage self, what advice would you give her? What would you tell her?
I would tell her to keep the fire of your temper tantrums, keep the fire of them without executing them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I could use that. I could use that on myself and my 6-year-old. Sure.
Yeah. I just feel like I worked so hard on my anger issues that I worked them all totally away. And I feel like there's something, what fires me up.
To go back to the chakra thing.
Yeah.
The element of 3, which is the gut, which is the thing that you're trying to listen to now, is fire. That's the element. Fire is 3. So, anyway, so there you go. You got something going on there in chakra 3, lady.
Yeah, chakra 3. And you know what else is kind of crazy about that? And I'm just going to say this, is that I've had a lot of surgeries on my gut.
Oh, interesting.
Wow.
And, well, okay, okay, anyway, keep going. Yeah, let's keep going. What's number 2?
Do you have a good luck charm or a ritual before starting a new project or before embarking on something big?
I don't.
I like that answer. That's the answer.
That's
You're the first one to just say, I don't, period.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Done. Okay.
Okay. So do you have a nickname when you were a kid? Who gave it to you and why?
Well, I was called Little Orphan Annie by the bus driver drove me home from grade school, and that always made me really sad that I was Little Orphan Annie. Yes, and then my sister called me Annie Fanny, or called me just Fanny because I used to streak around the house.
I got Steph Fanny. The same. I was Fanny.
Like, yeah.
So clever.
Yeah.
If you could have any skill, it could be otherworldly, supernatural. What would it be? A skill that you're like highly proficient in?
Dance. Well, I'm a sucker for ballet. I have to say, I would like to have that freedom with my body. Mm-hmm. That full on, like I can like just do anything.
Okay. If you were a nail polish color, what color would you be, and what would the cheeky little name be?
That is a good one. I feel like this is weirdly related to the good luck charm, I think, because I feel like I am always trying to change it up, whatever's in the room, right? Oh gosh. I think I would like to do silver, like really shiny silver with like a little crackle. Like remember when you could like paint something with a little crackle in it?
A decoupage type thing?
Like a decoupage type thing. And I think I would call it silver squeak.
Silver squeak.
Yeah, like
streak.
Like there's like a little squeak of another thing coming out.
Yeah.
I like it. I know he's
like
done
a little
silver.
crackle of another color coming through.
Yeah, like when that crackle paint was in about like 15 years ago. Yeah, I know what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like you, Annie Fanny, so very, very much.
And please call me Annie Fanny. Really, I mean, it's true. I did streak. Thank you so much for this, you guys. I feel like I want to have many more conversations.
Thank you so much for coming and joining us. I appreciate it. It was great to meet you.
Very great to meet you too. And I hope that there's many more meetings.
Bye.
Bye.
Love you. Bye.
Stages podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp. Our theme song says, love where you are now, but sometimes we all need a little help. I've learned from therapy and in my yoga practice that growth comes from challenges. A good therapist can help you reframe the way you look at a challenge and your life. And BetterHelp can provide you with a therapist that gives you some tools to navigate. They offer customized online therapy, either on video or phone chat sessions. It's more affordable than in-person therapy, and you can reach a therapist in under 48 hours. And right now, Stages cast members get 10% off their first month with BetterHelp, so don't wait. Remember, when you support our sponsors, you support Stages Podcast. So log on to BetterHelp, that's HELP.com/stages, and love where you are now.
Hi, everybody. So coming up on our Thanksgiving episode, Mary Lee and I will be answering all of your questions. Little by little, some questions have been coming in, and we're so grateful for those. But now's the time. If you want to ask us everything and anything, please send them our way. And that's what our Thanksgiving episode is going to be. We're looking forward to answering all those pressing, emotional, messy questions.
You can email us a question at our website, stagespodcast.net, or you can leave us a comment on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram. We also may answer our 5 questions that we've been asking everybody else all year. We're really looking forward to hearing what you guys want to know. And now, back to what struck a chord with us. Oh, she was fun.
Very open, I thought.
Yeah.
I admire her always reassessing and sitting in her truth. You could actually hear her kind of peeling the onion during our discussion. You know, she was really figuring it out and working it out in real time during the conversation. When I asked her if she thought stillness was selfish, because she said she desperately wanted to be of service, but she found herself unable to do that. That resonated with me. That's actually a question I could have asked myself.
I thought that was really, really powerful when you asked that question.
Do you feel the same way? Like if you're going to go take a nap, there's a little bit of guilt to it. Or if you're like, I just want to sit here for 20 minutes and do nothing. I don't want to open an email. I don't want to think about prepping dinner for the family. I don't want to think of anything.
I can't do it. My husband naps. He's like, come on. Even if I'm exhausted, I will just lie there and make lists in my head of all the stuff I should be doing.
Yeah.
It's
because you feel
very hard.
Like,
I don't know.
Is it a conscious choice? Like I cannot erase, and because you're so good at meditation, which also is sitting in the
I'm not
the
good
space
at meditation.
of you're not.
I struggle with meditation. I wish I was better. I actually haven't done any yoga like through probably the whole pandemic. Everything has stopped. That I need to get moving more. It's funny because I don't know, because then sometimes I will just sit around and do nothing for like a chunk of time. But I think I do feel very guilty when I do it. So I have to distract myself with like my phone or something. But to actually sit quietly is a very difficult thing to do. It kind of goes also to what she was saying about her sense of like, we were talking about chakra 3 and stuff and all of that, that sense of like personal power and all of that, that all is in the same kind of space energy wise. And there's this wonderful quote by Einstein that I use in my yoga classes all the time. And he says, the intuitive mind, which is your chakra 3, right? Your gut. The intuitive mind is a sacred gift, and the rational mind is a faithful servant. And we have created a society that honors the servant and forgets the gift.
Whoa. And
that's all about dropping into yourself and quieting your head, allowing that space to just be quiet and listening to what's really going on inside, which it's so hard for everybody.
Yeah.
But I think that's why your question was so powerful. It's an important question.
Also, the word that's kind of sticking out there is servant. And then I go back to the conversation where she was using the word hierarchy, right? So in her workspace where there's the director and then the stage manager, and then however you want to list it in terms of authority,
right?
And that she was really starting to thrive in this space of dialogue and creation, in sort of that everybody's on an even plane and everybody's voice has the same amount of weight. And then we spoke of the Knights of the Round Table. And one thing I wanted to mention in the middle of the chat was that it's interesting, this trusting of each other, this saying that where you sit in the table is the same place as I because of this circle, which goes back to the costumes that she was talking about, how the circular
the circular sleeve.
Right.
Yeah.
But the Knights, it's said that the Knights of the Round Table, when they would all lift their glasses and clink them together, it was a form of trusting one another, because if someone there was plotting against them and not part of the bond or the kinship, that when they would clink the glass, if somebody had poison in their glass, it would hit all of them. And that's sort of, I trust you, right? Isn't that
That's
interesting?
The coolest. I love that little tidbit.
Even now as friends, if you go out to eat or drink and you're clinking your glasses of wine together. Now, of course, we don't do it so that all the liquid slush, but that is what it's symbolizing. It's like we're here together. We're embarking on breaking bread together and we're trusting one another.
Yeah.
And I just thought that's really something that when the time comes for me to enter back into a rehearsal space or any sort of collaborative space, to keep that in mind, that it is truly a round table instead of a sort of triangular hierarchy. I think that's a really healthy way to come back into the world.
I really liked that. I liked her a lot. I like how introspective she was and very honest. Yeah. And you're right. She was peeling away the onion as we were speaking. And I love that kind of honesty. It makes for a really nice conversation.
That's what makes such a great connection.
Yeah.
Thank you all for joining us today. I think we certainly did. We got to hear a wonderful conversation and embark on some really great new, unearthed ideas.
All right.
Have a great week, everybody.
I'll see you next week, my friend. Bye.
Bye-bye, ML. So if this episode resonated with you, please follow, subscribe, and share.
You can always find us at stagespodcast.net. A big thank you goes out to our assistant and doer of all things technical, Sarah Cho. Thank you to Noah Kaiserman and Garrett Healy for our beautiful original music, Melanie Von Trapp for our Stages Podcast logo, Brock Grenfeld, our sound engineer, and Ellison Arns, our PR and social media expert.
And thank you, our cast members, for joining us today. We hope you come back next week.